Hello everyone, today we're going to go through notes 5.2.2. It's a continuation from our last lesson. In our last lesson, we have gone through the first three objectives, which is to differentiate between the different type of assets and liabilities. And I've also gone through very briefly on what is net assets and how to calculate it. So for today's lesson, is more on how to prepare the statement of financial position for a sole proprietorship. And before we can do that, we need to know what goes into the statement of financial position from the trial balance. Okay, so this lesson is going to be divided to two parts. One is to discuss the question on page 5. Okay, and the other one is to go through a question from page 6. All right, so let's get started. Right, this is the question from page 5 of your notes. We are going to do the statement of financial position based on the trial balance from this question. Now, on the right-hand side of your notes, you would have seen the steps on how to go about doing it. But let me just explain to you very quickly. All right. So, in a typical question, you would have this list of balances. I will also loosely call them a trial balance because it's not a trial balance yet. But if you actually try and do a trial balance out of this, you realize that the debits and credits will be the same. Now, on step 1, it says there, only assets, liabilities, and owner equity items will appear in the statement of financial position. Highlight these items. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So from this list of accounts, right, you would realize coincidentally, okay, it is not like this for every single question. Coincidentally, we have placed all those assets, liabilities, and owner equity items in the last few accounts. All right. Now, after you have done this, you have identified what are the accounts that go into the statement of financial position. You then need to go ahead and prepare the statement. But I would also like to do some preparatory work before we actually do the statement. What sort of work are we talking about? Is to just simply label the accounts according to the subcategories that it belongs to. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and label it for you, and then you can check whether my labeling is correct. All right. So what you see on the screen right now is me labeling all the accounts that belong to the statement of financial position. Now I have a correction to make. I went to highlight commission income wrongly earlier. So now I've actually cancelled commission income because commission income belongs in the statement of financial performance. Okay, because it's an income account. So this is what I've labeled so far. I have intentionally left out cash at bank first because I wanted to explain to you. Now, cash at bank by default is a current asset. Okay, in case you're wondering what the acronym means, NCL is non-current liability, CA is current asset, CL is current liability, NCA is non-current asset, and OE is owner's equity. Okay, for cash at bank, it is actually a current asset by default. But for this question, they have actually given you a credit balance. Okay, so what it means, right? This cash at bank has a negative balance or a credit balance, so it is not a current asset anymore. When a cash at bank account has a credit balance, it means that we are using it more than what we have. Okay, so in fact, this cash at bank account should be called bank overdraft instead. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and write it over here. So instead of calling it cash at bank, we have to call it bank overdraft because it is a credit balance. But if they did not say what sort of balance it is, we got to assume that it is a debit balance, or sometimes in a question they will tell you that it is a debit balance. If it's a debit balance, and then it will remain as a cash at bank account. But if it's a credit balance, then it will be termed as a bank overdraft, and this account, right, will then go to your current liabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and label it as such. Okay, so now that I have already labeled everything, you need to take out a foolscap paper so that you can prepare the statement of financial position on a piece of foolscap paper based on this question. So I'm going to use a foolscap paper to prepare my statement of financial position after this. All right. So what I have on the screen right now is a foolscap paper. It's a piece of foolscap paper for me to show you how actually it looks like when you have to prepare this on your foolscap paper. Okay, so I'm going to start off by writing down the title. Now, in any statement, if you have to write a title, you need to start with a business name before that. But for this question, there's no business name given. So I am going to just write down a placeholder to remind you that in any statement that you prepare, be it statement of financial position or statement of financial performance, you need to write down the business name. So I'm just going to write down a placeholder just to remind you that you need to start off with a business name. Okay, then after that you're going to write down the title itself. The title in this case is a statement of financial position as at 31st March 2015. Okay, notice that the month is written in full. You cannot write much in short form, or in any other, for any other months, you cannot write down it in short form. Okay, then after you are done with this, then you're going to start off with the first type of accounts or the first category, which is your asset category. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do after this is going to be fast forwarded so that I don't take up so much of your time. So we are done with the asset section. I just need to point out a few things before I move on to the next section of equity and liabilities. Okay, now you notice that for this section, right, I'm only using the last two columns. Okay, I'm only using this column and this column. Okay, the first column is not used because you have not learned the chapter on non-current assets in more detail. When we do and learn that, then we're going to use that first column. But I want you to get used to preparing a 3-column balance sheet. Okay, then the next thing that you should notice is that for every section there should be a subtotal. The subtotal is always written on the last column. So this column, all right, is for you to write your subtotal. Okay. Next, the order of the accounts does not matter. So what I mean to say is, if you look at the current assets, right, this can be written down in any order because the order does not matter. Okay. In practice, in accounting practice, accountants would prepare the accounts based on the asset that is the least liquid to the most, the least liquid to the one which is the most liquid. Okay, what does it mean? It means that accounts that can be converted to cash easily will be put last, and accounts that can be converted to cash, the hardest, will be put first. But in your syllabus, right, we are not going to mark you down for not writing that in any order because the order does not matter. As long as you put them in the correct subcategories, that's good enough. Okay, so again, let me just summarize. I just want to use the last two columns. The last column is meant for your subtotals, and the order does not matter. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start off with the equity and liability section. Okay, so now we're going to start off with the equity and liability section next. Like the previous section, this recording will be fast forwarded so that you can see how it looks like at the end. All right, so there you have it. This is the full statement of financial position based on the question of in this set of notes. Okay, just a few things for you to for me to point out to you is that to know whether your statement of financial position is correct, right? You need to check that your total assets and your total equity and liabilities number should be the same. That's how you know that you are on the right track. So if these two numbers are the same, right, most likely you will get almost full marks for your statement of financial position. Okay, so we have come to the end of part 1 of this lesson. Part 2 is for me to go through the next question with you. All right, so this part 2 of the lesson where I will be going through how to do the question from practice 2. All right. So what this question is about is asking you to prepare a statement of financial position again, but then you need to do some adjustments first, like how we have done before when we did trial balance. And then another different thing about this question, right, is that you weren't given the profit for the year like the previous question. So if you read the instructions at the bottom, right, the steps here that you need to do is to first make all the adjustment, okay, and then right in step 2, you notice that you are supposed to prepare. First thing is to prepare the statement of financial performance. Okay, in case you have forgotten how to prepare that, you may want to refer to notes 5.2.1, where the template on how to prepare statement of financial performance is prepared for you in that set of notes. So once you're done with the statement of financial performance, right, then you can do the statement of financial position. Because if you don't do the statement of financial performance, you won't be able to get the profit for the year. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do the adjustment. Okay, let's start with adjustment number 1. Actually, the answer is already given to you. Adeline withdrew goods for personal use. This was not recorded yet. So in this case, you need to go and record it. So to record it, you first need to increase your drawings by 1,000 and reduce your inventory by 1,000. So I'm going to go ahead and update the balance so that you'll be reminded to update the balance later. So your drawings has gone up, whereas your inventory has gone down by $1,000. Okay, so that's for additional information 1. Next, it says here Adeline paid insurance 600 by check, and this was not recorded in the books. So the adjustment for this is for you to first increase your insurance expense because you have used the insurance plus $600, and since you are paying for the insurance by check, your cash at bank would have gone down by the same amount. Okay. Next, additional information 3. Oh, sorry. Before that, every time you have think about the additional information, right? Quickly update the balances. Okay. So cash at bank minus 600 and insurance expense plus 600. Okay. Now, for part 3, what they're saying here is 1/4 of the bank loan is repayable on 30th September 2017. There's a typo in your set of notes there. So what they're trying to say here is 1/4 of the bank loan, right? The bank loan is this 20,000 here. Okay, this is the bank loan 20,000. So this 20,000, right? 1/4 of it is repayable on 30th September 2017, which is within 1 year. Okay, so if you use your calculator, 1/4 times the bank loan of 50,000, 20,000 gives you $5,000. So how do you adjust for this? First, because a quarter of the loan has to be repaid within 1 year, you must first minus off your bank loan amount by $5,000. Because this is no longer a long-term liability, long-term loan anymore, long-term borrowing anymore. It's no longer a non-current liability. So we need to minus it out from the bank loan. Then where does the 5,000 go to? It goes to a new account called current portion on long-term borrowing. Okay, so this is plus 5,000. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and update the list of balances again. Bank loan, I minus 5,000. Now, you notice that there's no current portion on long-term borrowing, so I'm going to add it in, okay, as one of my new accounts. Okay, so I add it in so that I'll be reminded later to put this in my statement of financial performance. So this is current portion on long-term borrowing. The long term has to be spelled out in full. Okay. All right. Then the last part, the last additional information says the purchase of $2,000 of fixtures and fittings had been wrongly debited to motor vehicles account. So it is supposed to be in fixtures and fittings, but we put it into motor vehicle. So the motor vehicle one is wrong. It is wrong. It's the correct one, right? So it's just a mere transfer of balances. So your motor vehicle will minus 2,000, and then your fixtures and fittings will plus 2,000. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and update the balances again. So motor vehicle are minus 2,000 and fixtures and fittings are plus 2,000. All right, so we are done with all the adjustment. Before you prepare the statement of financial performance and statement of financial position, right? You may want to categorize your accounts first so that it's easier for you to do your statements, your two statements later. So what I would do is, I would label them accordingly. So for example, like cost of sale. Cost of sale is an expense, right? So I've just labeled it as expense. So anything that belongs in my statement of financial performance, I will label it first in black. So I've labeled all my accounts that belong in my statement of financial performance, which is essentially all your income and expense accounts. And then the ones that are going to go to your statement of financial position, right? You also label them accordingly. L. All right. So once you have all this labeled, then it will be easy for you to do your statement of financial performance. So let me repeat again. You need to do your statement of financial performance because you need your profit for the year number. Because at this stage, your profit for the year, right, is still an unknown. Okay, and where you can get this, you need to prepare your statement of financial performance. Okay, then you can find out your profit and you can transfer it to your statement of financial position. Okay, so I need you to try this question on your own. If you need to find out what is the final answer or how the answer looks like, right? You can go to the tinyurl.com HSPOA site 20, which is our POA Google site. All right, so that's all for this lesson. Please try this out on your own and then check against the answer that I've posted on our Google site. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye.